Good morning and welcome to another episode of Life in Spain Unfiltered. Right, sorry for the lack of activity on my page recently, but I have been away to the UK and also to the wonderful city of Madrid, which I will be doing a video on hopefully in the near future. Now, today's episode, I thought I would touch upon a few strange or different news stories I've come across in the local and national news over the last month or so. Every morning I get up and with my morning coffee, I tend to scan the local papers and the national papers here, both in English and Spanish, and do come across some things that always shock me, and things that don't always trickle into the mainstream. Right, before I get into that, I thought I'll give you a quick weather update from down here on the Costa del Sol. We're currently creeping towards August at the end of July, and temperatures here are quite good. We are experiencing temperatures are roughly about between 28 and 30 degrees a day, and things aren't bad. After the horrendous June we had here with record temperatures, it's actually quite pleasant. Unfortunately, like always here, the humidity is up in the high 70%, but there's not much you can do about that. And to illustrate how much the humidity does affect your day-to-day life, when I was in Madrid recently, it was 3 or 4 degrees hotter than it is here at this present moment. But the humidity was down at 15%, meaning you could walk around in the day and you wouldn't be sweating all the time and your clothes wouldn't be sticking to your skin. Whereas here, literally, you walk 5 minutes down the road and you got perspiration all over your face and your clothes are already starting to stick to you. Right, now onto these stories. We'll start with something which is a bit of a sad one, really, but it does link into another story here. And that is that, unfortunately, pets, especially cats and dogs, are being abandoned at record numbers in Spain, with reports suggesting that it's up to 33 pets being abandoned an hour. How true that is, I'm not sure. That does seem quite high, but the same report reports that it's up 2% on years before. Now, I've been here for a long time, and over the last 4 or 5 years, I've noticed a large increase in dog owners especially. Now, this has a lot to do with the cost of living crisis, and since COVID, obviously things have gone up a lot in price. Now, as people struggle to raise families, or even can afford to raise families, they go for a cheaper option, which is usually a dog. Now, most dog owners are wonderful people, look after their dogs and treat them like a member of the family, but there is a darker side to that, where people take on more than they can chew. Now, I remember hearing horrendous stories when I first get here of dogs being abandoned in the countryside and on rest stops, and you still see videos of that happening here online. But it is no coincidence that also in the same week I was reading about the abandonment of pets, I also read that the birth rate in Malaga had also dropped for another consecutive year, and that less babies were being born than ever before, which obviously coincides with the amount of pet owners. Things here are changing, and the animals now have to be licensed and chipped and things like that. So hopefully the things of abandonment and things like that will be a thing of the past. There will always be an illegal type of trade in that. And if anybody is does want to have a pet or a dog or something like that, I suggest that you go to one of these wonderful shelters here on the all over the place, especially on the Costa del Sol, and pick up an abandoned dog, as they are often loving creatures who've just been taken on by people who aren't capable of looking after animals. Right, and to the next interesting story, and a battle of consumers versus business, because we've all been to the cinema, and as you well know, when you go to the cinema, the drinks, the popcorn, whatever you choose to buy there is rather expensive. Now, what happened here was a very famous, or very well-known cinema chain in Spain has been taken to court and has been forced to pay a €25,000 fine for preventing people from going into the cinema with their own food. Now, this is a debate in itself, but it seems like because the cinema is listed only as a cinema and not as a restaurant or bar establishment, they can't prevent people from doing this. So people have complained to the official complaints department here in Spain, and they went to court, and the cinema chain was fined €25,000. Now, connected to that is something which is quite close to my heart, and that is businesses striking back against people splitting bills. Now, when I had my own business here, it would often slow down the work behind the bar, especially when people came to pay separately. Now, often you'd have tables of 10 or 15 people, and they'd all walk up to the bar, cramp the bar area, and all pay individually. Of course, everybody has the right to pay individually and things like that. But with the increase in credit card sales, this process can slow things down dramatically. So much so that I was in a restaurant just in Madrid, and we were trying to get the bill, and we had to wait almost 10 minutes while a woman was charging a table of 5 or 6 people who were all paying for their food separately with a credit card. Now, of course, the restaurant wants to take money, and of course, the restaurant will never turn down a payment. But now there's talk of restaurants actually charging people if they want to split the bill. I believe, talking to more of the younger people I know, that the more common practice these days is that one person will pay it with a card, and the other people will then BISM that person the difference in pay. But this is a more common practice happening here, and people aren't happy that they're being forced to do this. But at the same time, with it being so expensive to employ people here in Spain, and the cost, and it's very, very important for restaurants to work at their full maximum, restaurants and bars, I should say, because sometimes during the rest of the year, the times are quieter, and these months are very important to help them get through the difficult winter. Right, now another story linked to something I did a video on a couple of weeks ago, which that was prostitution. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, again, and his link to prostitution, because that's been well documented recently, although I am tempted to do a video on that. But in my previous video on prostitution, which I will put a link in the description below, I was very critical about nothing being done about it. Now, literally the week after I put that video up, there was a huge story here in the local news here that in Malaga, 2 siblings had been sentenced to 256 years together in prison for the very act of prostitution, illegal prostitution. What basically happened, there was up to 500 victims, mainly Colombians, sadly, and people who were illegal here, and often in a difficult stage of life or needed help. And these people were taken in to various flats and establishments where they were forced to work off their debts. But once again, surprisingly maybe, justice has come to their savior, and these two people will now face a long period of time behind bars. Right. To finish with a more happy and interesting story, this is something very bizarre I stumbled across, and I personally often criticize the world of having a lack of creativity in this modern age where everything seems to be very simplified and clone-like. But this particular image was picked up on Google Maps and shows the most wonderful swimming pool in Alicante. Now, as you can see from the image I just put up on the screen, the swimming pool has been built in the shape of the Spanish and Portuguese peninsula, and is the most wonderful creative thing I have seen in a long time. So God bless those people for trying to be a bit more different, and it just shows that there is still people out there who want to make people smile and want to do something slightly quirky, and long may that live. Right. Short and sweet video today. I will be back to you soon with hopefully a video on Madrid and a few other subjects I'm looking into at the moment, including the recent Lucky street vendor sagas we've been having here on the Costa del Sol. Right, I bid you a good day. Look after yourselves, and if you come to Spain, make sure you bring your sun cream. See you soon.